Hey everyone, this is Neil King for Random Acts of Cartooning, and I'm here at the Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia, and it's been around since 1893 with all these different vendors and so many people to sketch. But first, okay everyone, so our influence for this episode is Summer Blonde from Adrian Tomine. And Adrian Tomine is really well known for all the work he did with Optic Nerve, this continuing kind of series. So I'm thinking of this specific one just because when I look at it, I look at his work. He also does a lot of covers and illustrations for The New Yorker, that you get a real sense of the city, but you also, for me, I get a real sense of fashion and a certain type of person and all. He has a very specific style that I really love. That's, there's a lot of dialogue throughout the whole piece, all of his work. All the stories are very interesting, and they tend to be very fluid within just a few characters at a time. But every time I see them, I think that there's a real thought behind what they're wearing, even though sometimes some of them are simple types of things. You can see that he's using some reference, and I think by using all this kind of reference, it makes all of his things seem so much more realistic, and then you follow along like it's a film. So whether it's glasses that someone's wearing or a certain type of a shirt, I like the idea that someone like himself, even though he's done so many different types of stories with so many different characters, that what he's really doing is showing us all the varieties of places that characters may meet in the city. And by looking at things like that and studying what people look like, different hairstyles, all the different things, it really makes things so much more interesting. Like faces like that, you don't just make this stuff up. You got to be able to, have noticed all these types of things. And I think it makes his work so interesting. It's a subtle style, very graphic. And I think about him all the time when I'm doing any kind of interiors for cities and things like that. But sketching outside where a lot of people are around, I think that's why it's important to do it. So, Adrian Tomine, if you haven't gotten to Summer Blonde, it's just another great work of his. Okay, here we are at the Reading Terminal Market. I've been going and sketching at the Reading Terminal Market for many years, and there are just so many interesting things between the signs and the people getting different types of foods and all the different things are there. Lots of great opportunities. So I wanted to focus in on a couple people who are just getting some food at one of the vendors. And I'm going to try to do at least 3 sketches for this specific episode. This one is in color, and I tried to speed up the process a little bit here. I did my pencils first. Now sometimes it's difficult to go to places like this, so I've done this in 2 different ways, because to get this angle to be there and to do it in color, I just couldn't do this specific one at the time. So I just tried to take a lot of images of it, and I went and actually finished this one off in the studio. The others I'll have done actually there. I tend to just bring my my Bic pen and my travel sketchbook with me. But as usual with this, what I'm trying to do is get some of that architecture in there, and the 2 people who are there getting the specific food from this vendor. What I like about it is that it's the interaction of them, and it's an opportunity for me again to put in a little bit of detail that I would never think of, like these lamps and everything that are there. I don't care as much about how exact they are to the thing. Like there's so much little text and information on them, but for me, I love getting in, and I'm using this pen that has like no, it's kind of India ink, but it's it's a great pen to just be able to get in there and get some details. I was using so many markers for this kind of a thing, and I finally have been able to find a pen that I actually do like, and that I'm not worried is going to smudge everything eventually. But I want to act as if I'm just using my Bic pen, which I'm so used to going out and drawing with. But in this situation, I'm using the pen to try to get in all the big details, and then I'll go in with a thicker brush pen at some point to do the bigger parts to pull it all together. But for me to draw these kind of things, it's important to be able to have something that's just not like a micron. I like the microns, but with this, I'm a little bit more free and what I'm used to doing with like a regular part. So with this, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm seeing all the stuff, all these containers that they always have, and this woman is working there. She must have to do a million different people coming left to right. There's so many people at the market, and a lot of people are just all wearing their very distinctly different things. These are things, again, I could not make up. So I love these two women who are there waiting for their takeout, and they just ordered all the stuff from this little place, and a lot of Mexican food there. And I just think that everything about them I really loved. I wish, these are the kind of things that, you have to take pictures sometimes, because you'll just, they'll move and they'll be gone in just such a quick amount of time that sometimes you just got to take those pictures and then go render this again. Where other times people are sitting, you can kind of get them before they leave. But I really liked the way that this kind of scene is. I tried to put a simple perspective in there so that it goes back. It's just a basic little 2-point perspective that I just kind of eye out in my brain, and I just kind of get going. These are all the little bits of detail, and again, this is sped up like twice the amount of time, so I'm not going super fast at this, but I'm just kind of moving our way. And I'm going to do this one in color, so it'll be a little bit different. The other pieces I'll do in a limited color. When I was there, I think it's easier to do like a 2-color with with the line art. You can just go in. So again, trying to get in the major shapes, moving around, trying to find all the things that recede in the background. So I don't want the line to be too strong with those, because it'll compete with this scene that's in the foreground. But if I didn't put all these lamps in, if I didn't put all these things in, that's the stuff that I just will never remember was there, unless I just really look at a photo, or when you're sitting there, you're just trying to get all that little information. So this one to me is more of I needed more time than being able just to stand there and add something. So sometimes you can go to a place like this and just like quickly sit down somewhere and then just start drawing. But for this one, I had to take a picture of it so I could get all of these things in. So again, sticking with my perspective, you want to make this seem as real as possible. And I'm just, getting a little bit thicker lines here and there before the color, which would be coming pretty quickly right after this. There's a little image of it again. Now I'm just laying in values. Now to me, my first values don't mean that much to me. I know I have to have some light in there, so I'm going to just kind of add them to all the characters to have some type of consistency throughout the whole piece. There's not a lot of true yellows in the reality of it, but if you have those in watercolor and you establish this brightness in the area, I think it's a lot easier to focus in on what will happen eventually as we continue to put in values and stuff. But it's when you do something like this, a quick illustration, I'm just trying to have consistency, and I think by having colors all throughout the composition, there's a unifying feel about it, whether it has everything to do with the exact colors that they're wearing. I feel like this time of year, When I was doing this, it's kind of the fall. People tend to get a little bit more muted colors that they're wearing. So I saw a lot of blues in these in their fashions that everybody's wearing. So again, I'm just moving along, pushing things back. The real detail is all going to stay in the front. And with this, that because there's so many little things around, I want to try to make sure that as I finish it off, that I take the time to make sure that the lines are strong enough. I'm going right in with some darker value, some grays and blacks. And as soon as you do that, you can see how much she pops out. And you just want to attempt to get an overall feel for this kind of stuff. So these characters with her, all very muted stuff. They were wearing very kind of darker values. So that's what I try to do at the end. Come in, get a little bit more focus on the shadows and stuff that are happening. And you can see, as long as I keep doing the major parts that have a light, medium, and dark in the front, your eye can't help but look to that area. Everything else will get pushed back. And I'm just trying to push everything back. So I'm not done with my line, especially when you have all this happening. You want to just say, all right, you want the viewer to know where they're kind of looking. And I'm just kind of dry brushing in a lot of value to make it just come off of there. Again, when I keep looking at it, now maybe to come back with some more browns. That's a warm value. So again, your eye just keeps catching it. A lot of times people will put the cool colors in the background. That's a typical way to go. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to put some of with my brush pen, I'll put in some more values. Again, it's just this kind of a line drawing with a value on it. And notice how quickly everything just gets pushed right up to the front. Again, I'm a cartoonist, so I just want to make sure that within my style, everything is recognizable, and but gives you a really nice sense of these characters that are there. Really love these women who were there with her. I try to get as gestural as I could for two people just waiting, but I think you're getting the sense of it as you look through it. The piece. There's a lot of people around, but to me, this is like probably a very typical thing. This woman has a crazy job where she's constantly serving all these different things to people, and so I'm just trying to get her environment in there, make sure it's all legible. I was going to go in to do a little bit more with those lamps, but as soon as you put too much line in there with it, your eye could be brought up to it. So the lamps on the top, I'm going to give a little bit of line, but I don't want to do, I just don't want to do too much. And I was, on little last touches, I come right back to my detail pen, because I didn't want her face, like that face, it's just great. And I like how her hand was always around her face, like she's making these decisions and she's really thinking about it, But the hat and all the little things that go on it, there's so much detail. But that's really, I'm just looking at the figures and how they relate to each other. And just go in. I don't want those things to disappear, but I want them to be strong enough that they're also a part of all of this interesting stuff that goes on. I'm a big person that likes to use hatchet, but I try to hold off on that hatchet. So I'm almost done this. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do 2 more sketches right after this. And I'm actually there at the terminal. I tried for these trips, it was 2 different trips that I did, and tried to get as many images that I could with my phone so that I could show you what it's like around there. All right, just finishing up. Simple line work. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this quick piece. As always, I am a working cartoonist, so if you notice, there's a link on every episode where you can go to my Amazon store. And I have lots of books, some for adults, some for all ages. And this is an all-age book, Spaghetti Eddie and with the Meatball Eyes. It's a fun story where it's all in rhyme and what happens to someone who just will only eat spaghetti and what all the craziness that ensues. But a lot of fun. It's on my Amazon store. Make sure you're always liking and subscribing to these episodes. The reason I do them is so that I can sell my books, and I look forward to everybody trying them out and seeing what they think about it. Spaghetti Eddie. Okay, here we're back. Again, a lot of crowds. This was early in the morning, around 9 o'clock, 9:30. And everywhere you go, there's just so many people, really interesting stuff. So I sat down at a table and I started drawing. So with this one, I decided to do a limited color piece. I have this woman who's eating what's either her breakfast or an early lunch. But she sat down, and she actually sat down right in front of someone else I was about to draw. So she kept looking at me, as I was doing it, and I couldn't look her off. But so I kind of got in there. But again, to me, very gestural stuff. I was interested in trying to make it seem like the figure is looking like they're sitting and eating something. I thought she had an interesting shirt on, and so I was trying to get all the basic stuff in, her profile. And I'm in there with all my detail with my pen. And it is water resistant, really. But it seems pretty waterproof to me. Every time I put any watercolor on it, it seems like it's been holding up. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm getting way more confident in the way that I draw with it. Like I feel like with how I am with my Bic pen, which I'm very confident with. I just go right after things. But that's why I kind of had a pencil at the beginning to kind of get major shapes and then go in. Because I can't, with this kind of a pen, I just can't just draw like a Bic and just keep working on top of it. It's still a pretty strong line. So I'm going in, trying to get the perspective, just focusing in on her. I'm not going to do anything behind her for this one. And she's got this interesting kind of pattern to this shirt that she's got on that I want to try to get in. This very geometric shirt. I'm trying to do a little hatching, but knowing I'm going to come in with that wash with a kind of a sepia tone almost. I'm going to come in with this one. I'm just getting all the major stuff in, nothing major. And then I'm just going to go right in. I have a water brush. And it's great to have. Again, I'm still kind of getting used to it. But just sepia tone. So I'm going in with my darkest areas first. And getting the feel for the character. She's there, and she actually kept just sitting there. So it made it a lot easier for me. But once I've established all this, you'll see it's great with a limited color. You're in and out of this. I wanted to have some kind of a value behind her so she pops out a little bit. There's people all over the place. And now with the darkest areas, I want to be able to lay those in to give variety to the image in itself. You can see kind of just rolling in, and this is just because of this water brush, I can really kind of just get things in fast, and then I'm done with it. This probably took me all of, 5 to 8 minutes or something to kind of get in. This is a long video, so I want to just be able to show you where I was for this spread. This is almost done. There she is. And I'm moving on to this person at the counter. They've moved a couple times since I was there. But I thought this would be interesting to draw also. So with their back to me, I'm laying in basic shapes with my pencil so that I feel comfortable to go after it with the pen. And the more that you're outside and the more you do these kind of things, you realize that people are very likely to move. So you want to get in real fast some of the things that are happening, because things will change. And definitely this person was eating and they took off and then they came back. So in the time I was actually drawing it, they were still there that most of the time. And then they eventually took off and came back. But I had already had the figure in, so I felt like I was okay. But I kept looking back and forth. Has this hood on, and you just forget about this stuff. Like, I don't know, I've drawn a million different people before, but they're there, and then they have this strap that goes across with this bag. So they were eating with the bag right on their side, and then how the fabric drapes around when you're sitting down on a stool. There are multiple stools there also, so I'm trying to get a good sense of where they are when they relate to him actually, and then his feet were up on a rail that go right under the counter. So again, it's a little detail that when you make things up like I do as a cartoonist here, sometimes you're like, well, how does this even work? Where are they going to put their feet? Do they all this stuff? But this one just actually had a rail that goes off the side of it. So it's stuff that I recognize when you go out and draw things from life that you might just use as a quick little thing as you're doing a comic and you have somebody sitting at an interior, it could be a restaurant or something, and these are the things that will help. So across from them, one of the wait staff was there, and they must know them. So I was just, she was there for back and forth for a few moments. So I just tried to get her in there, but every time I was starting, she would leave and then come back and all that stuff. So I tried to put in the most basic elements of her. She had glasses on and hair that's long and it comes backwards. So I'm trying to look at all that and remind myself, I'm like, this is interesting, right? You know, she's wearing this or that. Somebody's in the background making something else. But when you're doing these kind of things, you have to start saying to yourself, like, am I bringing too much emphasis with too much line? And, you know, what's going to make this all pop eventually? But when you're doing something like this and using wash, that really does help in the end as you go through. So now I'm going to go into my color. And I'm going to stick with that sepia tone in the background. Sets a mood. Also pulls all these things together as a design. Looking at where the light's coming. Establishing. And again, this was another quick one. This may have taken like about 8 minutes. And I was happy because people really weren't coming over and looking at everything I'm doing. I was just kind of in and out. So I'm going to try to keep going back to the Reading Terminal Market. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you're subscribing and liking all my videos. I'm out and about with my sketching. Really enjoy everything that's going on with it. So follow my exploits. And the best way to support all my work is to go onto my Amazon channel and store and buy some of my books. But hopefully I'll be able to go back to the Reading Terminal a lot. See you soon.